What's up? What's up? What's up? What is going on? Happy Tuesday. This is episode 1 of 2 this week. I'm going to do another episode on Thursday, and that is going to be a table read of the there was a whole bunch of posts that went out, and it was like these crazy stories that everybody submitted. And so I'm going to read all these crazy stories that everybody submitted, along with Dan Baker and John Vasquez. We're going to read them all. We're going to read a bunch of them. We're going to comment on them. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Very excited about that. That is on Thursday. We're going to do that late night style, probably like 7:30 Central. And then on this coming month, later on in the month, there's a series that we're going to do. It's from prison to the trades, and I have a series of guests that are going to be coming on that have all spent hard time in prison and turned their lives around, going into the trades. And it's going to be an incredible story. I have heard these stories. It will absolutely blow your mind, what some of these people have been through, and it will, it'll shape you in some sort of way. It's pretty remarkable. So that being the case, I have a very, very interesting guest on today. I'll just bring him on. I'll let him introduce himself. His name is Ryan Chute. Ryan, hello, sir.
What's crack-a-lackin', my friend? How are you?
Oh, man. Living the dream. So, Ryan, you're an interesting cat, man. Why don't you tell everybody who you are, man?
I'm Ryan Chute. I'm a partner at Wizardof Ads. I help contractors, essential home service business owners to take their small businesses, turn them into big brands.
Yeah. And but you do this in a very interesting way, right? Okay. Why don't you go into that a little bit?
You don't call yourself a wizard and don't do something weird, right? So Wizardof Ads really just focuses in first on the strategies. What are the thing? What's the thing that makes you stand 600 feet above your competition? And so many companies and business owners just think, I don't know, just like do HVAC or plumbing or electrical, and there's nothing special. It's just like we know that we do a better job than our competitors, and we take good care of people, and we serve people at the highest level, and that's just table stakes stuff, right? So we have to dig deep. We have to get past the kind of the superficial small talk, the table stakes, and get into the things that really, really matter, not just with what we say about the brand, but what we know to be true about the culture within the brand and the buying experience, and get that down to the really granular spot and figure out what we're going to do to stand you 600 feet above the competition, and then do something that I never expected. Coming into this business as a sales guy, I thought you just kind of teach people about what you do. And what I learned really quick when I became a partner was we're going to say a bunch of things that nobody anticipated ever saying about themselves or their business, that has nothing that really feels like their business, but is absolutely everything about their business. And then we tell the stories of the customers and their pain and how the business engages them and solves those problems. So that's where the creative copy comes in. And then we're blessed to have national presence with our mass media partners. And that allows us to get just shockingly, ridiculously good deals on mass media, where about 50% or more of your trade area is hanging out. Whether you listen to radio or not, there's more people than you can imagine ever actually listening, and that's where you're going to get a little bit of a unfair advantage when you're showing up where other people aren't.
Yeah. You know, one thing I learned a long time ago was that the best, most successful people tell good stories. Yeah. Who are the best storytellers? Those people are typically the ones that that do the best. You know, it's funny too, because I almost relate it. Sometimes I even relate it to like biblical tense. Like, think about the amazing stuff. Like, you hear like these amazing stories being told. I think it just draws us in, and I think you're right. And so, how does this? So, okay, so we could talk about, you know, throwing ads out there, right? Listen, the title of this episode here was, Google is not God.
Mm-hmm.
It's the devil. Mm-hmm. And what did you mean by that? Because you came up with that name.
Yeah. Well, listen, we've heard the false idols out there praising the good Lord Google, and I like to say, blasphemy, shame that there is no God aside from the one true God. And I'm not religious in the formal religious sense. I don't believe in religiosity. I do believe in God, and I do believe in the greater that God brings. But in that, so much I'm not going to be preaching or there's going to be no fire. There is going to be no brimstone.
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion on the on one of the posts. Somebody said, like, what's going on here? What is this all about? Is this an anti-technology sermon you're going to be doing, Everett?
There is no mark of the beast. No, none of that.
Nope. Telling stories.
We're going to tell stories, and look, that is the story to be told. Look, Google matters, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that matters too.
I'm going to ask it off the gate because I'm really curious. What's the best story? Let me ask you this: what is the coolest story you think that had the most impact on the business? Like, which story was it that you guys created that you got the feedback on that was like, oh my gosh, you have no idea. This story was the best. Everybody loves it. Every time we go into a house, somebody tells us about this story.
Yeah, it's that one that I just sent you over earlier today by email. And this was a company, we renamed it to Drain Magic. It was called East Coast Trenchless, and that has its own obvious tragicness to it, because who the heck knows what trenchless even means unless you're a plumber.
By the way, I know the owner of East Coast Trenchless. I didn't know that was it. That was pretty cool. He started out in a little business in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So that turned into an absolute giant, and then they rolled it into their bigger engine. But they were able to bring that up to darn near 7 figures a month in less than a year. And that was dancing in that 50 to 80 a month when we started. Well, the name was tragic. We had to fix the name, and we all know that the pain that people feel is at the drain. It's not at some weird trenchless thing. So we fixed that problem. Then we fixed the problem that needs to be solved, which is we really wanted to be the second opinion company. We're not trying to do plumbing. We're not trying to do traditional like toilet swaps and those types of things. We're trying to fix drains and full stop. The guy has a brilliant business model. He's an absolute rock star operator. Like, there's just world-class, best of the best. And he needed something that stood out and was absolutely outrageous. So that was the assignment. So we come up with this guy named Billy Ray from Billy Ray's Hole Digging. And Billy Ray's probably got a little bit of a hearing problem because that diesel engine running behind him is always kind of just humming away.
You want me to play the ad?
Right.
Play the ad?
And so this one's about Yelp and how proud he is of the Yelp reviews that he just received.
That's funny. Yeah, let's see if I can pull this up here. Who's that? Like, and it's like Joe Rogan's like, hey Jamie.
Hey Jamie.
Jamie, can you?
Hey Everett. Can you pull that one up?
Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna pull this up. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
All right, let me move that down, and I'll put. Yeah, there we go. I'll play this audio right here. Let's hear it. Let's see if you can hear it.
Hi, I'm Billy Ray from Billy Ray's Hole Digging. My customers know when you need one great big mother of a hole, ain't nobody better than you can call than Billy Ray. Let's just take a look at some of my online reviews. Here's one. Good Lord, that's the biggest hole I ever seen. I had no idea the hole was going to be that big. Well, you are quite welcome, it horrified in Hershey 69. I hope you enjoyed your hole as much as I enjoyed digging it. All right, let's see. Mystified Margaret says, did you really have to dig across the driveway through my azaleas and all the way across my front lawn? Yes, ma'am, and you are quite welcome. Thank you for that lovely review. In the old days, if you needed to repair or replace your drain line, it meant digging a trench from your house to the street. With Drain Magic, we use advanced robotics and modern materials to remotely diagnose and repair drain lines without digging a hole. And we guarantee our work for life. Underground drains? No trench. That's Drain Magic. For a second opinion, visit drainmagic.com.
Love it.
Just the tip of the iceberg of where we took that campaign across the first year. And the idea was, let's get people to absolutely adore us until such time as they're faced with the unfortunate situation of having to deal with that, and then have them immediately think of us when that came up, almost certainly from their plumber, who was going to tell them that they have to rip their driveway and yard from one end to the other, and how disruptive it is to the neighborhood. And when we were getting explained how intrusive this is and how almost traumatizing it is for customers, we're like, oh, hold my beer. You want trauma. Let's let's lean into this and have some fun with it. So it's this massive story of transformation. It's this really great story of what it could be and the pain, and what it isn't with, advanced technology and simple, clean things that all happen in a day, and just make it such a quick, elegant, easy solution that not only are we able to solve your problem that you would have had 3 days, 4 days, or even a week of nightmare with, we can do it in a day, but for the same price. So now we're talking about net 30 to the bottom line, and all of a sudden this makes an awful lot of sense.
Talk about the war room. Like when you guys sit down with a company and you map out and you game plan this, what does that look like? I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, the war, it's a lot less sexy than it might appear in the world. At the end of the day, we visit with the client, we're spending time with them, we get past the small talk, and we really start figuring out where the real pain is, both for the client and for the customers that they're serving. And what we're trying to do is pull out something that is true to the competitive landscape that we're dealing with, and to the overarching situation at hand, be it plumbing, electric, HVAC, garage doors, roofs, whatever. So what we're trying to do is dig out the trauma, the wounds, the incidents, the changes, the scary stuff that's freaking people out, both inside the company and out, and how we deal with it, how we cope with it. Because what we're looking for is the flaws of a company. We're looking for the hill that they'll die on, the self-imposed consequence that they'll put on themselves when no one else is willing to put that consequence on them. We're looking to get past the 100% satisfaction guarantee nonsense that everybody's going to say, and the weak sauce warranties that have every friggin'
oh my gosh,
weasel word out that you can get, right?
I went to a conference once, and the keynote speaker got up on stage and he said, hey, so there was a bunch of business owners there. It was a large practice group that there's hundreds and hundreds of members. He gets up there and goes, how many of you out there offer quality service? Everybody was like, oh, I do. It's like, how many of you out there do, great warranty work? Oh, we do good warranties. It was like, how many of you guys background check your guys? How many of you have warranties and guarantees? How many of you? Everybody said they do that. So you're right. You have to differentiate yourself. Yeah. Is there a level that you always humanize these stories? Because I mean, I think people identify with humanizing stories. Is it always like, do you always feel like the story has to be relatable?
Yeah, well, listen, if you don't have a relatable story, you don't have anyone tuning in, right? And one of the things that's not relatable, I mean, I'm looking at the Superman poster over your shoulder, Everett, and I'm thinking, Superman has a flaw, right? He has a weakness, kryptonite, right?
Right.
If we didn't have a kryptonite and Superman, he'd be friggin' boring. He'd be like super boring, right? And that's what we're bringing out in people is when we do something wrong, how do we fix it?
Well, that's interesting you say that, right? Because have you ever seen the Boys?
Yes.
there's a character who has basically no weakness, right? Anyway, maybe it's emotional.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think there's like emotional trauma there. He's got like, mommy problems and daddy problems and all that stuff. So,
right. And that's his flaw.
Yeah.
That we can relate to him with, no different than Omni-Man on Invincible. We're talking about people that are maybe impenetrable in their own physical virtues, but there'll be something that is eventually discovered that allows us to either rid of him or resolve the problem for good. And it's usually that next hero, that up and comer, that underdog, that scrappiness that needs to be resolved. This is an age old story construct, right? And when we start to recognize what makes great stories, oof, man, oh man, do things get interesting. We have one client, he's like always talking about getting everything right, getting everything perfect. So we were like, okay, well, nothing's ever perfect, so let's just over exaggerate perfect, and then we'll define what perfect means. And when things go wrong, we'll define how perfect gets resolved. And it bled into every aspect of his business, from his warranties and guarantees and the consequences that he imposed upon himself for those warranties and guarantees, to how they answered the phone and how they approached closing the sale. And that's really good marketing.
Have you found yourself now, because you've been doing this a while, do you find yourself like every time you're even watching a movie or watching TV, now you're super analyzing it?
Yeah, man. I am so obsessed with storytelling that I became a producer at Abundant Studios. I'm a executive producer on Broadway now. I've had the absolute benefit of being involved in storytelling at the highest level. That has nothing to do with me trying to sell anything to anyone. It just has everything to do with finding the way to get past the Broca's area of the brain, past the bouncer in the brain that's saying that the predictable isn't allowed in, and just burying myself in the imagination and the stories that we're telling. And when you can really get good at storytelling, oof, you connect.
When you say Broadway, you're talking about the Broadway production with Chris Voss?
Yeah, we've got a Broadway production starting with Chris Voss. It's going to be a one night only show with Chris Voss in June, and it's about negotiating life, and it's gonna be a absolute once in a lifetime experience that people are going to be absolutely blown away with the 600 or 700 people that we'll put into that theater. And
which theater are you using, by the way?
Samuel J. Friedman Theater in Broadway, on Broadway, just off of Times Square.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've seen my way in a few of those theaters over the years, man. So that's pretty cool. I got a chance to perform in one too. That was pretty neat.
That is amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah. Years ago, it was like a whole nother life, right? So yeah, that's a whole nother animal, right? Because tell about that process, because I mean, there's so much that goes into trying to put on a Broadway production. I can't even imagine well, I guess it's a little easier. You don't have like big set pieces, right? Because you got a celebrity coming in, a celebrity author coming in, and you're selling a one night show, right?
Well, and these people really do understand it. The first time I did it was with Lisa Nichols, who was on The Secret, the movie The Secret, and since written 10 best-selling books with people like Jack Canfield and of course herself. And she's like the Black Lady Tony Robbins of our era. She is kind of the person that the gurus rallied behind and got behind and supported and mentored for her whole life. And she and I become friends, and we went to Broadway with her show in December, and we're currently shopping it around with all the major networks and big channels like Netflix and Amazon, and these are world-class events.
The stage performance, or would it be?
Yeah, so we shot the stage performance, and it was a one night only thing. We shot the stage performance, and then we're going to take that and bring it to the masses. So it's it's an exciting time to be in that theater and to feel that energy is just world class. It's
what's it like to work with Chris Voss, because he's a master wordsmith and negotiator. Like, is it tough having a conversation with him?
It was a bit daunting at first. I'd met Chris a couple of years, 3 years ago now, and then we got back together through my friend Nick and Chris's friend Nick. We're mutual friends, and we were hanging out and talking about stuff. You know, we were talking about bourbon and starting a bourbon celebrity brand and doing a. He'd interviewed me for a thing that's just being released now, and then we got into this whole conversation about negotiation and sales and closing, because I'm on the sales closing side, he's in the negotiation side, and I'm like, I think that sales is like a dance, and that closing is like jujitsu. And then he perks up and he goes, yeah, but like pinning down the problem, not the customer, right? And I'm like, man, I love this guy. Like, he is just the best. And I'm like, we should write a book together. And then we wrote a book. We're writing a book.
Yeah. Attack the problem, not the person. That was something that I learned like last week. Not that I learned the concept, but I learned that phrase, attack the person, the problem, not the person.
Well, and it's that construct in our brain too, right? Like how we're going to approach it. What I found about Chris was, like, Never Split the Difference is pretty like sexy. It's got the hostage taking and the violence and the danger and all that other stuff. And what you come to find out about Chris is that he is one of the kindest, most compassionate, empathetic human beings I have ever spent time with. The way that man treats every single human being around him is just absolutely the most endearing thing in the world.
I would think you would have to be, right? Because he was a hostage negotiator. So he had to literally put himself in the mind of trying to attain a goal while trying to subdue somebody from doing something stupid, while trying to get on their side. Yeah. And masterfully, right? One of the takeaways from that book too is always like, how am I supposed to do that? Like they ask for something like, tell me how I'm supposed, like you turn it around on them. And I was watching this guy on TikTok, and he was saying like, and I don't spend a lot of time on TikTok, but I happen to be, somebody sent me a link. Yeah. And it's this guy, and he has like millions of followers, and he talks about like 3 ways of how you deal with X or how you deal with Y, or if somebody insults you, what do you say? Like all these little tips of the trade. And I'm like, these make sense. Yeah. These make sense. So
it's tactical, right?
It is. So this Broadway production is in June. It's a one night engagement, and you are also co-authoring a book with him, right?
I am. Yeah. He and I are going to be writing a book about exactly what you just said. Like, how in the world do you apply negotiation tactics of an FBI hostage negotiator in HVAC and plumbing? Well, that's exactly what we're going to write about. Is it's oriented to the Never Split the Difference, but put it into context of HVAC and plumbing tactics, and now all of a sudden you've got a clear pathway to that solution, right? So that's a big deal. It's super helpful in really kind of just figuring it out, how it is I'm going to actually do the thing that I read about in a book, put it in practical terms.
It's funny that you say that, because I have a friend who actually read the book. He's in HVAC sales. He read that book and he took those and he applied it into his world. I read it. I got a lot out of it. I got a lot out of it. Ironically enough, there's actually a closing line. That is, you actually, somebody goes, yeah, I want this and you want this, and be like, all right, look, let's just split the difference. And the name of the book is Never Split the Difference. And the crazy part about it is, Let's Split the Difference is a very effective tool to going like, you get something, I get something, like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right?
Yeah.
You get something, I get something. Let's come together. It's a win-win, right? Or it's a lose-lose. We lose, I lose, so yeah.
But finding that dance, and Never Split the Difference is really about not phoning it in. Not splitting the difference is about giving up on the negotiation. And yes, everyone needs to come out of the resolution in a positive sense, right? And splitting the difference is often not getting the most positive out of each. It's about holding your ground to what you know is true and to be sound and to be right for the customer and your business, frankly.
Yeah.
One of my favorites with Chris Voss is turning all the yeses into nos. Like, how many times for the last 30 years have I heard people just like, get the yes out of them, get the yes, get them saying yes, like 9 times. I used to say that crap all the time. And as Chris Voss is like, nah, man, you got to get them to say no. Would it be crazy if I got the upgrade to that thing at the hotel? And the people's like, no, that's good. Yeah, we can get you into that. And it's like, would I be crazy if, would I be mad if, like, how much trouble would you get into if I did like all of the things that you can just turn all of the yes questions into no questions, and no is a real easy thing for people to say. So start with no. This is a Jim Camp strategy from 30 years ago, but
yeah, start with the no.
Right?
Yeah, I always thought that was so much. That was so. I think. Oh, dude, man, this is a topic that I just live in. Man, like, and I think this comes down to storytelling too, because I think some people want to tell stories, and they want to tell it in a way that's like, I don't know, shiny light or whatever. But in actuality, you're right, humanizing it, right, being like, I think a lot of these strategies are just so common sense to me. It's just like, hey, all right, let me ask you a question. You want to do this? I know you want this. What, like, where, would it be crazy for me to say blah, 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 blah? Like, It's just, some of these strategies are like, honestly, they're just simple conversation pieces that, like, I think we forget as we get older. And I think the reason why we forget as we get older is because we're constantly thinking about the response. We're not thinking about what we are trying to say. We're thinking about the response.
Right.
And so you're thinking about the response, and you're like, oh, but they might respond like that. But it's like, okay, well, anyway.
But when you can control the response, like Chris knows he's getting a no. And that's what I love about this is like, no, I know what I'm getting. Like when I show a flaw for a client, we know we're going to get complaints. We know look, Aaron Gaynor put out his ad about him being on his couch with his kid, divorced and bankrupt and all this like crazy stuff that he put on the radio. And he's like, man, that was like vulnerable stuff, right? For a plumbing dude, for a guy who's like a plumber in Columbus. And like they started a Reddit page about him, start ripping his ass about what, like, this isn't a therapy session and stuff. Like, it's just like fantastic. Like, cause that for every jagoff who's starting a Reddit page, there's 20,000 people who adore the man because he's a man that should be adored.
So I got the chance to work for a company that used your services, and I actually, I was really cool. I messaged him actually. I messaged him. I want to actually share. Would you be okay if I'm going to share the page because actually this individual means a lot to me. I learned so much from him about how to really be just for all, everybody's got flaws. Everybody's got struggles when they're trying to build a business.
Yeah.
But man, he really attacked, just attacked things. And so the name of the company, Service Professionals, out of New Jersey. And I think it's the second best decision. I think it's just like a simple, I'm going to play this. I hope, the audio comes through. Let me know if you hear the audio.
Honestly, it's the second best decision of my life. The best decision was marrying Kelly and starting a family.
Aww.
But going into the trades was the best professional decision ever. And you know what? It's still a freaking great career. Both of my sons grew up working in the trades, and I couldn't be prouder. Why am I telling you this? First, unlike the bean counting CEOs of other home service companies, I'm a plumber leading other plumbers, electricians, and HVAC technicians. It's why I care about my people succeeding in their careers and the rest of their lives, which makes all the difference in the service you'll get from my thumbs up professionals. Second, I'm hiring. If you or someone you know works in the trades and wants a work home where they can always do what's best for the customer, call me. Of course, you gotta be a stand-up guy or gal with a heart to serve. But if you are, you'll find the best job you'll ever have waiting for.
So here's why I like that. ad, by the way, and not only because I know the guy and I worked there. The picture, you use the word bean counting CEOs, and I like that because it was a human approach. True story. I'm gonna have to send this to him. True story. We were short staffed one day, and we we had 15 plumbers on the road, 10 service technicians. Like it's a sizable $10 million company right at that point in time, maybe more. We had a boiler. Something happened. One of our installers. Guy got into a truck, went over there. Okay, I'll never forget. He walked in after the job was over. They installed the boiler. Dude freaking came in. I mean, he was soot. It was an oil boiler. Like, I'm talking soot from head to toe. And it just showed it was kind of neat. And I thought it was cool. And I like that ad for him because in all those ads, because it just kind of humanized him. And I really liked how it went, other than these bean counting CEOs. It shows, because obviously in our space, it's true. I mean, there's a lot of larger companies coming into the space. There's PE, all this other stuff. It's not a bad thing, but he's using that to his advantage and saying, hey, like, you're getting me. And to humanize it even further, he goes, hey, if you want to come work for me, I'll show you, come be a plumber for me. Come be an HVAC guy for me. I liked it. It was good ad.
Well,
has it done well? I haven't talked to him.
Astoundingly well, in just so many ways that I can't express, because most of them are confidential. But Rich and I and Kelly went. I brought them to Lisa Nichols on Broadway on December 9th. I just have a real soft spot in my heart for Rich. He is one of the guys who is deeply deserving of all the effort and attention and care that we can possibly give a human being to lift him up and to be the master that he is, because he is that guy. And you'd ask me, like, how do we get to humanizing a brand? Just tell real stories about real people who do real people things like Rich does. And not all people are like Rich or Aaron Gaynor or Jamie Porterfield or some of these other just really brilliant, caring guys in the field, and women in the field, working their butts off to get the job done and care for customers and their employees at the highest level.
That's good that you said that, but I think what's even more important is how you deliver that message. Actually, funny enough, Tony's in the chat here. Tony and I worked there at the same time. Interestingly enough, you say, like, oh, well, I got to back up for a second here, because you said something that really sparked my interest. But you're like, not everybody's, out there, and not everybody's doing it. We wanted to capture that. But how do you then, what kind of stories are you capturing where you can't capture that? Like you have a hard time with it. What do you do then?
Well, sometimes you can't let the unadulteratedly, purely 100% accurate truth get in the way of a good story, right? So that's not to say that we're saying anything absolutely deceptive, because that's impossible to be successful, but we're also crafting a story that allows us to dramatize things and caricaturize things in a way that expresses the sentiment with maybe humor or endearment or injustice and fighting those things. Very often we use a device in our writing called a foil. That's the character that does outrageously outrageous things, that can say the stupidest crap that has ever been said, for our guy to defend against that, to demonstrate our values. As we've shared a couple of these things,
Tony just said, I will absolutely take a bullet for RB, Rich Bogda. He taught me so much, it isn't even funny. Yeah.
Right. And that's Rich Bogda for you right there. Like, that is a man who is deserving of so much in life.
Dude, I remember he told, I was at the 20-year party. He threw like a 20-year anniversary party, but this was like years ago. Okay. Over 10 years ago. And I remember him saying, like, dude, he's like, back in the day, he's like, we would go and we would, like, sell a new boiler, furnace, whatever it was. And literally we were like, we didn't even know where we were going to get it. Like we were like, all right, we got to figure out.
Now it's sold. Let's go figure it out.
They figured it out though, and they, so lots of customers. Man, he's got lots of customers.
So when you have a guy like that, one of the things that we have to do in the mission room, in the mission control, is when we're figuring out the story, is create a character diamond. Now, this is a device created and taught by a guy named Dave Freeman, who's a massively famous screenwriter. He's retired now, of course, but he taught most of the screenwriters how to do screenwriting. And this device really kind of takes all of the things that go on with Rich and get them down to 4 major components, right? What you normally see, what is obvious about Rich, and then what's opposite and unexpected of Rich. And then what is a vulnerability and flaw of Rich, and then what's the hill that Rich dies on. And when you have those 4 components guiding your writing, you can create a construct that allows you to highlight the things that are going to most resonate with the people who are listening, right? And this is the exact same thing that you see when you see the characters of Friends or Big Bang Theory or Star Wars. They all have these character diamonds that have them acting and behaving in certain ways, but also being flawed in those same ways. It's no different than Superman or Doctor Who from the TARDIS, right? In the TARDIS, it's all of these characters all live within these constructs.
It's funny you see the TARDIS behind me over here, man. I'm such a Doctor Who fan.
Yeah. Look, and when you start to see it and you go, oh, okay, now I can. Now, what if we repurposed, right? The Superman character. What if we repurposed Sean Connery? Now we've got something really interesting. One of the coolest repurposings that you'll ever see in the history of America is House, the TV show House.
Yep, right? Like a completely unredeemable guy that somehow saves the day all the time.
Right. Now, who's that character in literature?
Is it Sherlock Holmes?
Holmes, House, Holmes.
I love that. Right? That's so cool.
A diagnostician, brilliant one at that, right? Problem solver, outrageous drug addict, right? Absolutely insufferable human being, right? Who is absolutely never going to stop until he figures out the problem, which is going to be more complicated than most people can figure out. And he had this character that was always with him, Watson, right?
Right.
What did House have? Wilson, right?
Interesting. So I never saw the parallel there, and I actually should go back and watch that. But interesting laugh. Now you've pointed something out, and I got to look inside my psyche a little bit here. I've got the Superman back there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's close to my heart. Like, last movie I ever saw with my dad. I got Doctor Who, obviously. But do you recognize this? Do you recognize this one right here?
I want to say that looks like Sean Connery, but I don't feel it is. I feel it's not.
It's not. I'm going to put you in the corner, and you know what? If we have a few people in the chat,
nobody puts baby in the corner. Who
knows? Okay, so who knows what this is? Who knows what this is?
Come on.
I'm telling you right now. If no one knows this, I'm going to be really sorry. I'm going to be really sad. Okay, ready? True story. And you want to hear about a really cool story inside of a story? Is that painting? Is from a scene in Goodfellas.
Okay.
So here's the story. Okay. In Goodfellas, there's a scene where they kill Jimmy Batts and then they have him in the trunk of the car. And then they go and they stop because they need, like, I don't know, a knife or something like that. They stop at his mom's house, but it's like 2 a.m, but his mom is awake. And his mom comes in. She's a little short Italian woman. And she goes, no, come on, sit down, eat. And so these 3 gangsters sit down and they eat, right? Well, basically, I don't know if you remember the scene, but anyway, the story about this is, so she goes, honey, have you seen my painting? And she brings up her painting and goes, oh, look. And Joe Pesci goes, oh, ma, this is so beautiful. Look at this. We got one dog looking one way. You got one dog looking the other way. And this guy's going, hey, what do you want from me? And he's got a big head of hair. Like, it's the funniest thing. Well, I found out later, because I love looking at, like, behind the scenes stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
That painting was actually painted by Francis Ford Coppola's mother, who played Joe Pesci's mom in the movie.
Oh my God.
And not only that, it was unscripted, and she did not tell them, she did not tell her what was actually going on in the scene. She had no idea that there was a body in the back. Like, she had no context. All she knew, he was like, Mom, the 3 guys are going to sneak in at night and you're going to make them dinner. You're going to sit down with them. You're going to eat meatballs. Yeah. And that was the whole scene. And that's why that was brilliant, by the way. Brilliant directing, brilliant everything.
Right. But like how much of that was just raw, real, just like people being people kind of thing that just vibed out into the thing. And now you have this crazy picture behind you. So meta. That's really, really great. I got to tell you a story about a meta thing that just happened. So we have this client meeting, and
what do you mean when you say so meta? What does that mean?
Meta is like getting so into the movie. It's like layer upon layer upon layer into the movie. It's almost like Inception. So we have this one client, and you and I were talking before, and you're like, hey, what are some crazy stories? Well, one of the crazy stories was that we're now like sourcing piñatas for the brand, because the kids love this guy so much, this brand that we've created, that they wanted the brand guy to show up at the kid's birthday party and I swear to God, they showed up at the birthday party. They brought the cake. They brought like t-shirts and hats. They gave them like certificates for free admission to their apprentice school to become plumbers. Like, they just crushed it. So we're like, well, we've got to do this fun thing. So our radio ads are all about like a character who does a thing, because he heard about it on YouTube from the YouTube expert, right? So he's like, and he's always calling up his buddy, who's the guy who owns the company. And he's like, hey, Nick, how should I do this? And I saw the YouTube expert do it. And Nick's always like, man, there's like 72 ways that you're going to kill yourself if you do it that way. Just call us and do the thing. So we come to the realization that we need to actually create the YouTube channel of the YouTube expert, which we'll probably call YouTube expert, right? And it'll always be this one guy, this like proper like Trent Parker, like the guy who's, running around at Mr.
Fat Cheeto.
Fat Cheeto, yeah. Like that type of character who's basically just giving all of the most impressively bad advice that you can possibly get. And then that'll be the reference that we're using, and then we'll actually just spoof off of that. So we're going to do this Inception type thing that is actually really fairly cheap and easy to execute from a social standpoint, but it's very viral in its nature. So
are you guys hiring? Yeah, I think it's going to be great. Are you guys hiring all the film crews and doing all the video editing and whatnot, or do you sub it all out, or how does it work?
So the second owner of that same business is like, oh man, that's me. That's like, I can pull this off. Don't worry about it. I got you, fam. So he's going to be the actor, and then they'll find their own guys to be whatever. We've already sourced all of the voice actors and everything for all of the radio commercials, and then we'll just start to just cross bridge these things in through our ads. So it just becomes a deepening of the brand.
And what kind of company is this again?
It's an HVAC plumbing company.
Oh, yeah.
But use humor, right? Because no one gives a shit about your thing. Like, no one cares about HVAC or plumbing. Everyone's like,
we do such a great job. We are so good at what we do.
Yeah.
No one cares
Charlie
anymore.
Brown's teacher. Remember Charlie Brown's teacher?
Yeah, no, the people have heard it. That's why. Okay. Interestingly enough, there's a sign on the freeway when I go to work, or where, not anymore, but not anyway, on this highway. And literally all it says on it, it's the name of the home services company owned by a massive company. And it just says legendary service.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I get the simplicity of it, but like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, it's legendary service.
It sounds like the guy that's at the bar, like mansplaining something to a girl when he's had just one too many beers.
Dude, I'm such a big deal. By the way, I'm such a big deal. You should definitely come home with me.
That's right. Yeah.
No,
wow, that's great. Nice shirt, bro.
Yeah. Cool story, bro.
Right.
So, what do you think is the most like out there like story you've ever like told in your ads? What's like the most like, wow, that's freaking random?
Yeah. we tend not to be random per se, because Cute and Clever doesn't actually catch the fish, because everyone's standing around the water cool tomorrow saying, did you see that thing with the 2 penguins and the kangaroo? And it was like on, the Eiffel Tower, and the helicopter from Luxembourg came in, and it's like, yeah, but I can't remember the name of the company. So did I do
So there's like
job?
there's like a sweet spot there.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like relatable, but you know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
But you look at something that got really kind of legendary regard in recent times was down in Corpus Christi, and we have this guy, and his original brand was a bit tragic, and he knows that. He and I'm not going to reveal it or anything, but we absolutely completely utterly changed that brand from the over muscular character and the bad clip arty type aesthetic, and it was just like a sub $3 million company that was never going to be more than a sub $3 million company, because it just had that kind of ick vibe to it. But the guy was awesome. Like, he's just such a great dude, and so we just made it about him. And on the side of the van, there's the guy's face and a set of sunglasses. It's not Jason Bueller, and it's all about a vibe. And we created an aesthetic around that was so cool that one of the pieces that we used is sunglasses, and they've handed out like thousands of pairs of sunglasses. No different than
it's gimmicky.
Yeah, that's the ghetto flashlight reincarnate, but people will literally stop for selfies with this van and wearing their sunglasses. They'll show up his office randomly, and just like 6 people will be like, can you get your picture with us? We just want to be like, we did a teaser campaign with them where basically we just launched the brand without actually telling anybody what we're doing at all.
Really?
So it was this whole thing where no one had a clue for 6 weeks about what we were doing.
Dude, I saw that. Wait, hold on. And I know you're not supposed to like talk about too many people, but somebody did that in our market, and I wasn't sure I don't think it was you guys, but it might have been. So there was a guy by the name of Elmer, like Elmer's, and he was like,
yeah, that's us.
Okay.
It's a different guy, but we did launch Elmer.
Weeks we had no idea what was going on. There were billboards all through Dallas, dude. I mean, that was a lot of money, bro. This guy dropped a lot of money, but they did like 8 million their first year, which was nuts. And the billboard would just say Elmer is coming, and everybody was and like I'd be driving on 30. There's like 1 million cars a day or whatever, hundreds of thousands of cars or whatever it is. I'm looking at these signs. I'm like, and it'd be one after another, and I'm like one of them, he's like popping his head out. I'm like, what is going on here? Who is this guy? I had no idea. And then finally I was like, oh, it's a home service company. And then he came and he ate our lunch. I mean, he took $8 million out of the pool, because he didn't have a company here. He didn't buy a company here. He just opened up a shop here and said, "Now I'm going to go to Dallas and not buy anything." Usually, if somebody comes into town, you got to buy. It's expensive market, man. Really expensive. Like, you don't realize how expensive Dallas is.
Yeah. Well, and the good news is that look, when you're buying through Wizard of Ads with that kind of emphasis, right? Like, you're not going in there softballing it. We have a lot of legs to stand on, and with national buying power, like, he's getting 4 times the coverage for the same spend. So when we're going in with a 4 times wrecking ball, that means if he spent $1 million, he got $4 million worth of stuff, right? Like, he dominated, but he only had to pay a fraction of it because he's using the leverage, right?
I do have a very tough question, because this is a hot topic because of how many people's faces are now like not watching TV, bro. Yeah. Okay. They're like, I'm not saying they're not, because I know people are going to be watching, The Bachelor tonight. Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, is TV dead, bro?
I love this question, because so many people like freaked out that because look, there's two big camps. There's the camp of cable cutters, right? And then there's the camp of people who don't know what a cable is. They never had to cut anything because they never had a cable, right? Now, most of those folks are pretty young. Now, if you're Gen X like me, if you're in your 30s, 40s, and you're kind of like sitting in that limbo world, you're like, do you have TV? Do you have cable? Do you watch broadcast still? Do you just watch streaming? Like, what are the things? And the answer is that Netflix is TV, and Hulu, it's TV, and YouTube, that's all TV. When you're watching a TV show like HBO, like, that's all TV. Now, the penetration strategy of most streaming services is give them a whole bunch of stuff for ridiculously cheap and no advertising until you get a massive volume. Then you can start advertising or charging them outrageous payments. And then you stack that on top of the 58 other streaming services. And now all of a sudden you're paying more than what you paid for cable, or you're going to start watching friggin' commercials again. So there was a blip in the moment in the matrix where we didn't see a bunch of advertising, but most people on Prime are watching radio ads or TV ads. Most people who watch Hulu
like when
TV
you're on Prime, you're because they're not ad free. But okay, okay.
So the answer is that yes,
it's changed.
TV cable has declined, and set top box has declined. The national decline since 2017 has been 10%. That we have seen a decline of 10% in the last 10-ish, not quite 8 years. So when you start seeing it, it's not that people are getting rid of broadcast or cable, it's that they also have streaming. So we pay attention to these numbers intimately. Every single time the national reports come out, we're the first people to get those reports. And we're looking at, should we be making any shifts? The answer has been, we have shifted the strategy to which we show up on TV and where. We used to show up a lot on Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. We show up way more now on live sports and news. We pay a lot of money for those spots, but play infinitely less of them because we're going to get the repetition we're looking for, which is 2 to 3 times a week each week. The flip side of it is we can still get that same penetration with radio, infinitely more than people have ever imagined. Over half of the population of every city in the top 200 cities of America listen to the radio, and most of the time it sits in excess of 70%, and the national average is 83% of people listen to the radio.
Yeah, I actually agree with that, and I it's funny you say that, because I do think that people, even though people have Spotify or whatever, I think that like for like local stuff and like sports radio and like whatever, I think people just throw it on in their car and they just like sit there and listen to it. And I know, because I would hear it on all the time, and Elmer's would come on all the time. So, okay. So it's not so much that TV is dead. It's that our screen time has changed on the devices that we're using and everything else, but we're still finding ways to capture attention now. But here's another thing. If I want like a 55, 65-year-old, that's watching Jeopardy or watching the news, like that's my core market, then I mean, and think about it, like if you're a home services company, like that's who you want. You want old people with money. Like that's your core, right? Because your young people are like, I'll figure it out. I got a neighbor, I got a friend. Like you get to a point where you're like in your 50s or whatever, you're like, dude, I'm not, just call a company. And
I am not doing No. I'm not getting on that roof. I'm not going to hurt myself. I can't bend down long enough to fix the problem, right? My knees hurt.
Evan Hoffman is in the chat here. He said 2 handsome bachelors right there.
Oh, Evan, stop it, you flirty Canadian.
Yeah, you Canadians are crazy. Evan actually he's revamping the HVAC Success Secrets Revealed podcast. And he's and it's called Let's Vent, and I'm waiting for his rollout, his first episode. That's going to be pretty cool.
I'm excited. I don't know if he's inviting guests on. I'm sign me up. I love that.
Well, here's what I've learned about, and maybe you can help me too. But here's what I've learned about. I've had a lot of engagement, so I'm really blessed. I feel really good about it. But one thing that I've learned is that there's actually, I think, because there's so many podcasts, everybody wants to do a podcast. Everybody has a podcast. But what you're finding is that like people will do like a couple episodes and then they kind of like, they dwindle out, or they're not consistent about it or whatever it is. Right. And one thing that I've, I think that if you're there for people and you put out, you're constantly having the conversation, I think it works out really well. I'm actually really happy. And actually, I don't even know how, like, we knew each other through like circles, but it was funny how we got in contact with each other because it just kind of happened. So, dude. Well, listen, man, let me ask you this. I have one question. I ask it on every single episode. I'm stoked to ask it every single time because I love the answers. What is one customer experience that you've had that shapes you, that lives with you, and wherever you go, you carry it with you?
19 years old. walking back from the appliance department in my family's furniture store, counting my commissions before they even came to fruition, going to look up the inventory on a washing machine that I was certain I was going to sell because I was selling it to Rhonda, who I went to school with, and there was just no way Rhonda was going to shop around with anyone. She was just gonna buy it from me. And I'm coming back and tell her the thing, and she's like, great, we're gonna come back and chat with you in a little bit. I phoned her the next day and she'd bought it from somebody else. And I was like, how in the world does somebody who knows me buy it from somebody else? And then I clicked on it, it clued in that it was me counting my chickens before they hatch. And in that exact moment in time, to this day, I live with this every single day. You saw how quickly I answered you when you and I were talking about that. I continue to live to this day, realizing that I'm going to never count my money again and never worry about myself again. And I'm just going to worry about delivering proper customer service and caring for people at a higher level. And when I do that, all the money I'll ever hope for will show up in my life, and it has, and it has.
Yeah. Amen. I thought about that today while I was driving. I'm like, cause it's like, don't focus on what you're going to gain. Right. Don't focus on oh yeah, I gotta go sell this customer. I gotta go make this money, yo.
Yeah.
Just be fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Just be fucking awesome. Just whatever you do, just go and do it 1,000,000%. And people do a great job and be smart and learn your craft and learn your trade and be the best at your trade or your craft. And then the byproduct of that is then you start counting your commissions there, Mr. Chute.
You know it. And that's it. In Japan, it's 7 years of cooking rice before you're allowed to touch sushi as a sushi apprentice. 7 years of cooking rice. You're not even allowed to sniff the meat, let alone touch it, right? You're not touching that meat for 7 years. Like, talk about getting good at your craft. When you're in Japan, there's a crossing guard, like maybe protecting you from like a manhole that's and that guy is in a pristine suit. And he's wearing a hat. He's got a little whistle and a little flaggy thing. And he's got little pylons like all the way around the little hole so that you're just not going to, be an idiot and fall in the hole. And then like when you get past the hole and you've made it to the other side, like he bows at you and thanks you very much for not falling in the hole and being a maroon. And that is being the best at what you're going to be, whether you're the guy who's protecting the maroon from friggin' getting around a little hole that is clearly marked, or you're the president of the United States. It does not matter. Just be all of what you can be. And I'll tell you, there's a couple of stories. Have you ever heard of The Message to Garcia?
Mm-mm.
So Message to Garcia is an essay that was written in the 1800s. It was found in the packs of Russian and Japanese soldiers as a message to how their soldiers should behave. And one of the things that the story of the Message to Garcia was that there's Garcia up in the Cuban mountains, and he was in dire situation. If he doesn't do the thing, he's super hooped in a big way. And the guy is like, who can I get to actually get this message to Garcia? It is of utmost importance. It's life and death. Who's the guy? And they say, oh, it's this guy named Rowan. So he calls for Rowan, and Rowan shows up, and he goes, I need to get to this message to Garcia. He's in the foothills of the mountains of Cuba, and it's of dire importance. And Lieutenant Rowan says, yes, sir, and disappears. And that was it, right? Like, how many times have we had that in our lives? As for, if all of our HVAC techs were like that, our plumbers were like that, our electricians, our CSRs, and our warehouse guy was like that, our world would be absolutely astounding. And we're looking for those unicorns in our life every day, but we have to be that guy as well. We have to create an initiative, the Rowan initiative, the initiative of finding and nurturing people like Rowan who get shit done, who just take the message and get it to Garcia. And no questions asked, and no ask for overtime, and no like all the stuff. All of that stuff came to Rowan. Rowan got everything Rowan ever wanted in life by being Rowan, right? And that's what we're talking about in so many of these stories is who can you rely on? Who do you want to have deliver your message to Garcia? Who are you going to follow into battle because you know that they're going to be the guy who comes out shoulder to shoulder with you and brings you with them? And that's life, right? If you're going to be human, do something that humans would want to pay attention to. If you're going to humanize a brand, do something that stands 600 feet above the competition, not by the heroic measures, but by the little things that a lot of other people just aren't willing to do.
Love it. Dude, this has been amazing. What do you want to plug? Plug whatever you want. You got your Broadway show coming up. That's probably sold out. Your
June 1st. No, we haven't launched tickets for that yet. June 1st, there's going to be both VIP and regular tickets on Broadway. It's called I'm trying to remember this. Negotiating Life with Chris Voss, one night only on Broadway on June 1st. I can certainly get you the link to that so that people can check that out. It'll also be in my socials at Wizard Ryan Chute. You can find me pretty much anywhere at Wizard Ryan Chute.
Okay. Wizard Ryan Chute.
You know it.
I'm going to put that at the bottom of the chickadee chat right here at Wizard Ryan Chute. If anybody has any questions, hit up Ryan Chute. Okay, guys, on Thursday, we're doing a table read. Please attend because I think, honestly, like I don't mostly care if anybody goes to a live chat. This one's going to be a whole nother animal. Okay. We are reading all of these submittal stories from technicians and sales reps and plumbers and electricians from around the country. They have submitted, okay, like, so I was in this house. This is the real So I Was in This House episode. Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
This is the true service and sales tales of the original concept. We are going to have stories that are I've read them. Some of these I can't even put my mind around. So we're going to do a little thing. We're going to do a little banter. It's going to be a little community event. It's going to be a lot of fun. Probably going to be like an hour and a half episode. But anyway, I really encourage everybody to come. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Tell everybody to come in here. I got a lot of technicians who are going to come in too. Dude, Ryan, I really enjoyed this conversation. I can't believe we've done an hour already. Pretty awesome. For those of you that don't know, I am partnered up now and I'm creating all the graphics and everything for Cooper and Hunter is my official podcast sponsor. They're a great manufacturer of equipment, Douglas mini splits, VRFs. Very excited to have them on board. They've been super cool. I got a whole box of stuff from them. So I'm very, very cool. And I got some more sponsors on the way, which is really, really neat. I'm overwhelmed with the amount of reception I've gotten. So Ryan, dude, I love your stuff. Been awesome. Guys, I'll see you on Thursday. Rock and roll.